It's exactly what I wanted on maybe every possible level. So that's good. Why so early? I will be 100% honest with you, Mesvia. It's because I forgot when I stream. I sure do wish this wasn't me frantically running around putting together all the pieces for streaming together, but it was. Streamer Man streams when Streamer Man feels like it. So I have an idea, which is a subathon for being recently unemployed. So what the early stream is for all of you true members of the gang. You get to hear the early scoop. And Cass, thank you very much for gifting out those 5 tier 1 subs. If you got a gifted sub from Cass, please be sure to say thank you. But no, so I did forget. And then the other thing is, listen, I don't want to enter into the bad job Olympics. Bad job is not even fair. Early job Olympics. But with Techno is, I do see you with the glad to be around for a stream. New job starts early, so bed is now early. I go to bed at 8 p.m. and I wake up at 2 a.m. Now, you might be doing some mental math in your head. You might be going, DeMaiste, you're so late to everything. How often do you go to bed at 8? So that way you can get a full night's rest. And to which I would respond with, shut up. I've only crashed the moving vehicle twice. And now you might be asking, DeMaiste, is the company getting their contract severed because you crashed the vehicle twice? To which I desperately wish the answer was yes, because then that would mean that only I would be getting laid off and not everyone else. But unfortunately, there's some real injustice in the world, and the thing that sucks is that I knew last week that things were going to be contiguously tumultuous, and you know, very bad. But I just didn't know how to convey it because it was so fresh, and also felt like something that wasn't awesome to say. And like, it doesn't feel awesome to say now, because like, as we're sitting here basking in the sort of ennui of Morgan of the Devil, which fucking, what did we find out her first name was? Her first name is actually Evangeline. She's Evangeline Morgan, whatever. Like, I have a lot of hopes and dreams, and actually, so my family, hilariously enough, found my blue sky. My family and I have been like talking about a lot of stuff with regards to the world, which obviously I haven't talked about for the last couple of weeks because the world is a bad place right now. But like, we were talking about stuff like moving over to Mastodon, which I think is like an alternative social network platform, and then all of the things that I used to post on Twitter are now on Blue Sky. Nothing has changed, other than perhaps an even worse separation of personal social media and brand social media. But my family hit me with, why do you always feel comfortable posting like bad things that are happening to you, but you never talk about like the good things or the positive things? And I remember being like, well, I don't think that's fair. I think I talk about good things on my social media. And then I scrolled through and I was like, wow, there have been a lot of bad things that have happened to me. So I did also want to start with talking about some positives. Number one, I'm living with my partner, Mesvia, which is amazing, and I have not explicitly said anything about that, in part because I wanted to make like a YouTube video with the like swaths of free fucking time that I have. So hey, I'm living in Washington, 100% enabled by Mez, and I do greatly appreciate that, because while I still have moments of mild discomfort in Washington, in a new place, it's not as bad as the moments of discomforts in Florida. And that's what we're gonna say, and we're gonna move on. But I genuinely really like Washington. I like that it's cooler out here. I like that it rains a lot. I like the environment writ large. I liked having a gainful employment. I liked having a proper job. I say proper job, but 2 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. But I liked having that because it meant that I wasn't worried about the paycheck for a while, which was an experience that I severely underestimated, and that I'm going to have to get used to maybe not having necessarily as I get back to hitting the bricks with sending out resumes and applying to jobs again. And I just wanted to touch base because I'm going to talk about a lot of negative stuff as well. But there are a ton of positives. As always, you guys have always been a massive positive. And I do feel bad about not being as open and sort of like informing you guys about like kind of what's going on. I've had a couple of friends who have like reached out to me and been like, hey, is the only way to like get information about your life through Twitch? And I'm like, on one hand, no. You could send me a DM and get a response back in like 3 to 5 business days or whatever. Oh god, this is a very awkward hello, Fanina. We're playing Of the Devil by End Circle Studios, which is a fantastic visual novel about a sort of cyberpunk dystopia. There's lots of like lawyer elements. It's very good. You're not interrupting. I'm being very self-indulgent and also streaming like an hour earlier than I normally stream, and I've just spent the last 23 minutes being very rambly. So you're not interrupting. Do not worry about it. But thank you so much for being here, and I do appreciate it. The game is good and it looks beautiful, and I sure do wish. Okay, I'm gonna do one thing, and then I'm gonna go back to talking about what I was talking about. But my character in Final Fantasy XIV, VOD of DeMaiste, 100% of his personality is just in his hair, and because of that, when we met Evan Dawes, it was a critical hit to the brain, because Evan Dawes and VOD of DeMaiste share very few similarities. But the problem is that they do share hair, and that's all it takes for me to start losing my mind about things. So, okay. I've done my obligatory talking about Final Fantasy XIV because I do play and think about Final Fantasy XIV, and then that's another aspect that I do want to get back to, is I want to talk about like other games, play other games, do things in sort of the capacity that I've wanted to do things, and a part of the problem is just time and getting used to things. And I can only say getting used to things for so long before it goes from I need to settle in Washington to I've been in Washington for almost 2 months, and perhaps it's just questions about me and my abilities. So it is, there's a lot going on in the background, and I do want to say thank you guys all so much for having patience and for hanging out and bearing with me. Things will continue to change because life is mutable, and the ephemerality of existence means that if anything stays the same all the time, you shouldn't trust it. It's a mirage. But yeah. And Sabata, thank you for re-upping your sub as well. Hurry, subscribe, and flee. It always is a wild feeling, but I appreciate it. And it is good to see everybody. Crashing twice. So, Mesphia, I count the time that I got stuck in a snow embankment as a personal failing, because, you know, I don't know how to drive on ice, so you know how it goes. Um, the world is round. Swaths is a fun word. Swaths of George. And there you go. And thank you, Sabata, for shouting out Fanina. Yeah, God, Fanina, I hope you've been doing well. I have been literally, I feel like you could go back over my entire streaming career over the last 4 years and pin every single time I've said, hey, I'm doing something with Ishgard in Final Fantasy XIV. But real quick aside is that Fanina is a fantastic streamer, a delightful individual, and I'd like to say fond acquaintance, perhaps light beginning steps to friendship, who also shares that fascination with the best city state in Final Fantasy XIV. So if you like any of the stuff that I do, absolutely check Fanina out. They're brilliant and they're great at what they do. So yeah. Evan Dawes? Nah, that's clearly Sir Elish DeMaiste, Knight of Ishgard. Sir Elish DeMaiste, Knight of Ishgard? Nah, Cassadar, clearly what you mean is Lord Cathar Crux DeMaiste Elish from hit space politics game. So, you know, real life always comes first. It's so I've been gainfully employed for the last 2 months minus some change, Fanina. And then what's really funny is that basically I got in, and then immediately after getting like a steady paycheck with like a little bit less stress on the financials, because that's a part of the move to Washington and a part of the big change up to life. I found out that the company that I'm working for has not had their contract renewed by Amazon. And so I will go back to being not on a steady income. So obviously I'm like sending out applications and stuff like that because I basically said I'd give myself 5 years of trying to make streaming my sole source of income, with variable levels of success on that. So those 5 years have come and gone. We're sort of moving from there, but yeah. Ah, yes, Elish, Emmett, and Dawes, the triangle of me. I share zero similarities with Emmett Selk. I don't know why you guys keep saying that. Listen, just because I say insane things like Inheritors of the Stars and thou, like, don't measure up to your potential, it's just the fact that I am disapproving of you and not any similarities with our good friend Hades. So, you know. Why, that was you? Listen, Mesphia. I want to say that I crashed into a snow embankment, but technically, yeah. What can you say? We both have fantastic taste. It's true. Yes, yes, yes. Moody Moomba. Yeah, we love Ishgard vibes. Okay, so sorry, just to talk about Of the Devil really fast. The game has a ton of content warnings, so you know, if you're not in a great headspace, and me talking about the like infinite crushing potential of capitalism and how capital is theft has not put you in a bad headspace. Real quick warning that Of the Devil deals with some pretty heavy subject matter, but I think they do it both in a very clever way and in a very charming way. Let me tell you something about sweet boy Evan Dawes, which is when I saw, because like I was going down, like, because they all of the characters have profiles, which I love. When I saw proud of his practiced handshake, the amount of like scene, not on like the Elish Evan Dawes level, right? But on like the level of me as a writer of a character and the writers of Nth Circle Studios writing Of the Devil, writing Evan Dawes, the that they probably laughed as they wrote out this section. And I'm like, that like literally, God, I love the Of the Devil profiles. They are so extremely good. But if there isn't anything that sums up like what Ishgard would be as a corporate dystopia arcology, it's proud of their practiced handshakes, you know. Yeah, very, very tiring, Fanina. We're gonna see. I've got like kicking around in my brain span the idea of like a fun employment, uh, like subathon stream thing. which is very, very ephemeral. But one of the things that I was like putting down on my list of like brainstorming things is just working on like Ishgar related writing, which is nothing. But I was thinking of like maybe doing anyways. I have been inspired by the few times that I popped into your stream where you're just like working on RP stuff because I love that and I love RP. And in the month and a half to almost 2 months that I've been out in Washington, I have not written a single RP reply because life. So you get it. Emmett Selk did nothing wrong. Cass, the fact that you misspelled Emmett Selk makes that bit premium. You think the spring sale ended this morning? Sugar. I'll go into Nightbot. Hold on. Nightbot. Bup, 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 bup. Okay. Okay. Now there will be no more false advertisement. Also, it is embarrassing that we are on this screen because you are not hearing the absolutely banging soundtrack of The Devil, which really just means that I should, get a move on and actually play the ding dang game. But Oh, also, for people who are in the Pacific Northwest, there is a tentative plan, and again, just all the losing job and everything else in the background has sort of caused me to not be able to move forward with this. So yeah, if you know who you are, you know who you are. The plan is that we are going to do some level of meetup at SakuraCon. I would really like for us to hang out and meet up there, and I think it could be very cool. So if you know what any of that means, good. And if you don't know what any of that means, don't worry about it. It's not for you. Sometimes there can be things that aren't for you, and that's not a bad thing. So there you go. DoesTheDogDie.com, it's true. Mr. Streamer, can you screen cap this exact game scene for some hilarious editing purposes? Your unpaid editor told me to ask you that. Sure, hold on one sec. Print screen. Oh god, they've updated the print screen. Oh god, I hope this hasn't broken the stream because oh man, Windows 11 is truly my enemy. Please, not the practiced handshakes. Also, you're going to go grab dinner, but you'll be around. We'll catch you, Fanina. Thanks. Yeah. Idea for the subathon: inventory cleaning. I think the only times I've actually cleaned out my inventory has been during subathons. But I will have you know, I have a full page of free space in my Final Fantasy XIV inventory. So yeah. That means so much to you. You're glad that the streams are motivating, inspiring. I presume you are gone, Fanina, but it does actually, like, it was actually really nice to see, like, working on adventure plates and stuff. Okay. This is nothing for no one. Like, truly, this is about to be nothing for no one. But I made a card for Elish. And I haven't talked about it on stream because of how much, like, truly, like, how insanely busy we have been, how like there has not been time to go over stuff. I made a oh, okay, hold on. The easiest way for me to do this is to duplicate the entire scene collection and then do a specific browser capture like a normal person, which is how everyone else does it. I made a card for my hit character in Final Fantasy XIV, Elish DeMaiste. And the like funny asterisk thing about it is that he, like, I didn't finish doing it, which is like on the conversation of like starting a million projects and then never finishing it. So I made the card, and like I truly did have the moment where I was like, oh, like I'm done with the card, whatever. And someone reached out to me and they were like, hey, I don't mean to like cast aspersions about your character because like they're fine. right? Like the writing is fine. It is what it is. But we got to talk about the gallery. And I was like, what's wrong with the gallery? And they were like, it's just this one picture of Elish over and over again. And I was like, yes, I did forget to finish fixing his card, huh? So that's a thing that exists in the world. And I am bad at finishing even a single project. So one of the projects that we're going to finish, Of the Devil. Stream is still fine. Thank you. This guy using print screen and not Windows Shift S. Why in the name of God would I use Windows key Shift S? Kitty Beans, why would I not just use one button instead of 3? So yeah. Is it because you haven't been playing Final Fantasy 14? Is that the only reason why it's clean? Well, now, I'm not going to say the only reason, but did you know that critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV has a free trial and includes the entirety of A Realm Reborn and the award-winning Heaven's Ward expansion up to level 60 with no restrictions on playtime? Sign up and enjoy Inorzia today. Cass, they've actually expanded the free trial to Stormblood. So there you go. The more he does look like if Elish was sopping wet. I fucking love Evan Dawes. I love the problem. Okay. This is nothing for no one. But if Elish didn't have the special sauce that makes him Elish, Elish would have been Evan Dawes. But yeah. And I just reminded Clary that they need to go update their card. If you have a card for your OCs in Final Fantasy XIV, here is your reminder. Go update that card. But yeah, he looks like Uke Elish. Ah! Like ukulele? Is that not how that pronunciation is done? I thought you meant like the guys who like played songs on a little ukulele. Okay. I truly it's is it an ook? Oh, is it a yaoi thing? Oh, okay, that explains why I don't know it. Yeah. You gotta uke out for one that one. You got uke out of that one. Oh, Yugoslavia. No, I have no idea what an ook and a sem is. No idea. But anyways, all right, sorry. Truly, the piercing silence of not having game music is starting to drill into my brain, especially as I can do contiguous bits that are only for me. So can I take the semook.com quiz for subathon? Sure. Kitty, save that link and remind me in a DM or something, and I'll make it a thing. But yeah, all right. Let's rock and roll. I forgot because like I gave Evan Dawes a pathetic voice and not my Elish voice. All done? You ready to get the ad handled? That seems right. Thanks for humoring me. Can you have it step into the scanner? Okay. Really quickly, because this is truly a wild place to come back in. An ad stands for an automated dependent. An automated dependent is anything that is some sort of like virtual intelligence, right? So that term might not mean anything to people as well, but it's like catch-all term encompassing robots, intelligent programs, interactive holograms, and androids. Sarah, the character who is in the middle, the super hip chick with the excellent coat and the barcode on her forehead, is not, the barcode is not like a fashion statement. She is literally like a robot, and like a robot being the operative phrase. And so she's our adoptive ward. There's a lot of addendums to that statement. She is an ad who we have gone to the company, which is Noble Industries. And in this instancing, it is the company in the same way that Wayland Yutani is the company in the Alien movies. And the entire thing around this is that we're doing this in order to get some more information about our good friend David Ashore. David Ashore has been charged with having committed suicide. However, like, charged is like truly a bonkers like situation that has been developed, so that way Morgan can represent David Ashore in court, so that way she can find out more information on how David Ashore died, because the robot asked her to. This is the worst cliff notes I could do on this. You're welcome. Why does humanity keep making the robots look exactly like people? Because Cassadar, of both the familiarity of the looking like people, the like desire to like face that uncanny valley, as well as liking to play God. And God made us in his own image is the hypothesis that people run. There's like a really cute thing that Sarah does where she calls Morgan Adonai, which I do think is actually extremely tasteful. Because if Sarah went around calling Morgan any sort of other authoritative term that would describe the automated dependent owner situation, right? That's a tough place to be unless Sarah literally runs around calling Morgan mommy, right? So there you go. Make the robots look like biblically accurate angels. While I would want that, I think the biggest problem would be that you wouldn't know where to plug in the charging cord. So anyways, so Evan Dawes just asked Morgan to command Sarah to step onto the doohickey, and Morgan says, as he says, understood. Right then. What are we looking at here? Whoa. There's a lot to unpack here. Honestly, Dawes, I agree. There is a lot to unpack here. We theorize that it may have been Assure's pincushion. I don't know if pincushion is a search term that we have, but basically the idea with the pincushion was that it's something that you do to like test your like other like creations and like modifications and like mods and things like that, right? So I don't think it's in here, but yeah, it's very much sort of like rubber ducking as a term. A pincushion, huh? That would explain some of what I'm reading here. Sarah's expression. What language is that on the screen? Tesseract. All Noble products and, well, pretty much all products, period, are programmed in TESS. TESS. Tesseract 4.6, better known as TESS, is the latest version of the Tesseract programming language, built on top of the Tenet system and utilized in industries around the globe to code the software that allow androids, robots, holograms, and more to react with their environment intelligently and with intention. At the start of the century, there was much greater variety in the number of programming languages available with which to code. Globalization, the standardization of industry procedures, and the gradual erasure of many spoken tongues contributed to the loss of countless programming languages during the mid-21st century. Today, TESS is virtually unchallenged in the global lingua franca programming language. The study and teaching of other older programming languages is mostly done for recreation, hobby, or digital archaeology. Very clever. Okay, sure. And then also, well, we'll get to that. There's plenty to be said here. Globalization intrinsically does not necessarily mean the destruction of regional dialects and things like that, but I do like the logic here. Okay. Well, pretty much all products, period, are programmed in TESS. easy to read and write, stay compliant. Now this model, what's it go by? I know we are really freaking hitting the nail on the head with some of these. What is that like language of the angels that, oh man, that one talentless hack. The guy who pretended that he was John D, that John D claimed that he could read. No chin, thank you, Theo. Yes. I don't know that they're doing this, but I swear to God, I want him to be like, wow, it's written some like weird language that I can't understand, like the language of the angel. Also, Theo, are you excited for Occult Crescent? Because from what I have heard, it is going back to exploring a little bit of Amdapur Maki Nim, which is hell yeah. Okay. It's always good to see you, Theo. All right, sorry, focusing back up. Boo? Now this model, what's it go by? Sarah. This Sarah model, it's got everything the 16th line has, that's for sure. I wanted Sarah to be the murderer, right? And the reason why I wanted Sarah to be the murderer is in part because of like the neatness of it. If you have not played Of the Devil episode 0, I will not explicitly say the things that will be spoilers, but you will be able to infer things based off of my language. But to parallel the end of episode 0, I wanted Sarah to have murdered David Ashore. But truly with like the introduction of Evan Dawes, I want Evan Dawes to have murdered Ashore, just because I think that would be freaking hilarious. But anyways, moving on. It's got everything the 16th line has, that's for sure. Organic skin, hybrid muscles, advanced facial processing and emoting. But there's a lot crammed in here that's still in development, like in the idea phases. Solar cell hair strands, decentralized redundant power, mental and physical overclocking with extended tolerances. Data storage is so large I can't. Oh, wow, he had to measure it using... I love how smug Sarah looks here, yeah. What if the murder of David Ashore was the friends we made along the way? Cass, both literally, metaphorically, and metaphorically, you are correct. The murder of David Ashore is the friends we made along the way. Humble triumph, but hell of a poker face. Wait, decryption and signal hijacking? That's hacking. Essentially. Does that mean it could hack its own tenants? I'm assuming these are like Asimov's laws, right? Tenant supersystem. A programming framework underlying the development of all modern automated dependent software. Any and all contemporary supported programming languages are built upon the tenant system, allowing users to designate a series of involatile priorities for their code to peruse. Once added to a program, a tenant cannot be circumvented under any traditional circumstances, and even then, only if a tenant with a higher weight supersedes it. Tenants were first adopted in the field of computer science as a trio. As a trio. Jesus. My ability to read today. Tenants were first adopted in the field of computer science as a trio. 3 priorities that govern how preserving human life, obeying human commands, and avoiding damage to human property should be prioritized. Since then, the number of supported tenants has ballooned to 113. Most of them requested by lobbyists in the insurance industry, looking to better define relative financial value. Tenants are well known for increasing the decision lag time of programs. This, combined with their engineered inflexibility, has made it such that most programmers aim for a tenant limit below 30. Originally, the one tenant that could not be removed from any program was tenant safety 0, aka tenant 0 or tenant 1. Said tenant dictated that the following program could not produce outcomes that would result in harm to a living person. After the decision reached in Peoples versus Volstance defense contractors and the resulting widespread adoption of automated dependence in the military and security sectors, this is no longer required. though Tenant Zero may still be added to particularly benign or mundane software as a good luck charm, superstitious ritual, or joke. And while you ruminate on thou shall not kill, I'm gonna go grab a water. I will be right back. Right? Sorry for that, folks. I wish I had run an ad break, but I've only been doing this for 5 years. I'm still learning the ropes. Okay. So tenets, they're like Asimov's rules of robotics, except more codified. And apparently, thou shalt not kill has been removed from the list of tenets, obviously, because you need automated dependents that are going to blow people up. You get it. Does that mean it could hack its own tenets? Oh no, that's unthinkable. Literally, for an ad. For an ad to break its tenets would be like you stepping into traffic or dropping a baby. Evan Dawes, I've got bad news about the cult of domesticity. Even if you're physically capable of it, it's not something you would ever choose to do. Some people do walk into traffic and also drop their baby. Psychotics, addicts, the mentally ill. Does that mean that there are androids? Well, no, there aren't crazy androids, so yeah. It is worth noting that Evan Dawes is a quality assurance chief supervisor, android manufacturing quality control. Literally, Evan Dawes' job is to identify the automated dependents in the assembly line who do have the defects, which would make them seem like people with mental illness, which is an unhinged thing to think, especially because of its similarities to Elish. I guess my analogy doesn't hold up. That's okay. So it can't hack itself, but it was given the ability to hack other systems. And yet he struggled with CAPTCHA. He's a chief supervisor. Obviously he is not, obviously he's a Nepo position. Obviously. The industry line is such that a capability could be an option in certain emergency scenarios. Breaking through the firewalls and encryption of surrounding electronics to broadcast directly to police or military channels. Speaking of military, this musculoskeletal setup is drastic. I've never seen this on a consumer model. Can you lift a car or something, Sarah? Most cars. It would depend on the center of gravity. Lady, this Sarah could wrestle a public disturbance walker and come out on top. Those stomping behemoths they bring out for riot suppression. Okay. Sorry, I know I'm talking about Final Fantasy XIV a lot, but I am still not sold on galactic exploration or whatever, right, in Final Fantasy XIV. But knowing that you get to pilot a giant mecha, listen. And in terms of computational ability, the estimate says that can't be right. Look, Dawes, I was actually hoping you could tell me something about the software or the metadata. Who worked on it and when? Ah, right. Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. The editing logs have been purged. We raided into somebody last time who was also streaming of the Devil, and they commented on how the music wheel in the top right corner is a little bit more indicative of like Danganronpa and stuff of that nature. I do, generally speaking, agree, but the nomenclature I have seen the most of has been Toxic Yuri, Ace Attorney, so I'm like gonna follow the Ace Attorney company line. But yeah, you missed the notification. Hello. No worries, Ender friend. It's good to see you. Thank you for 44 months of re-upping yourself with us. I do really appreciate it, my friend. Okay. That doesn't sound very above the board.
Sorry, I can't tell you anything about who worked on Sarah or when. Any chance you can restore those logs? Not here, not with this machine. I need the computers that were actually used for programming this model. Any ideas where those would be? Sarah? I cannot answer that question with any accuracy. I had a feeling you might say that. Ads, right? Heads up that there is an ad break coming up with the conversation of ads. Unfortunately, you will just have to rock and roll through that because we have a limited amount of streams, so I have not been taking ad breaks, and I do apologize. But you can check it out in the VOD, as well as if you're subscribed, you won't see any ads. So there you go. Sorry, I can tell you that the code is unique. There's hints of the A16 in there, a few of the same conclusions. It's just Dr. Assure or whoever took very different paths to get there. So Sarah has even less in common with every other android on the inside? Sorry, didn't expect to hit a dead end here. Not at all. You've been very helpful. Can we still get the registration done? Yeah, no problem. We've got the software and forms all set up here. Occasionally we let a new business partner bring one home fresh from the oven, you know? Oven? Gross. All right, a few basic questions then. Who's going to be the official owner of this unit? She is. As it says, unless the will disagrees, it's my responsibility. Right then. Dawes looking directly at the camera, very haunted. You fine with the designation Sarah? We can set it to anything you like. Well, actually. Never mind. Sarah will do fine. Listen, Evangeline. Sometimes you make do. Okay, this part's all standard. Civilian model, address, contact info I can get from your crumbs. Do you want to reset to factory defaults? Could clear up a lot of quirks. Not right now. The last thing, then, is the grading. I'm reading 23 tenants here, nothing too far out of the ordinary. 23? That's higher than I expected talking with it. She seemed more malleable than that. Don't blame yourself. Guessing tenant count from outward appearances has become a crapshoot. Not like it used to be. Used to be they only had 3 tenants total, and every unit you had to have them. Then came the first accidents, and the first lawsuits, and the hearings, and the legislature. I love Dawes! And the demand for more tenants. A tenant making sure ads couldn't endanger the state. A tenant stating that ads wouldn't divulge private information without prior consent. There was a campaign calling for a tenant to weigh child and adult lives equally during risk assessment. There was a campaign calling for a tenant to do the opposite. Companies wanted their asses covered, customers wanted guarantees. There was never much incentive to deny a requested tenant, so the list just ballooned. Until the military entered the market in full force. You sound like you don't approve. I wouldn't go that far. They don't pay me to have an opinion. They needed their ads to be able to pull the trigger when ordered to, without clearing 5,000 lines of bloated, hard-coded decision points to get there. I get that. Dawes, do you? If they are going to end someone's life, surely clearing 5,000 lines of bloated, hard-coded decision points would be some of the least that they could do. But since the armies are the only ones using tech with bare minimum tenants, all the best, least cluttered, most elegant code is only used for war games. It's not very romantic. Well, not like I was on the jury. Department of Advanced Defense Projects versus Zenith Dynamics. The Supreme Court sided with the military's request and set up a new precedent that every other army around the world would race to meet. Changing tenets from a mandated list at the root of every ad source code to a choose-your-own checklist. Sounds about right. It's funny. Ads with the most tenants, they're so locked up you can't even have a conversation with them. And outside the armed forces, the only ads with single-digit tenant counts are just vacuuming floors. The most impressive ones, like what you've got here, fall somewhere in the middle. Sorry, went on a tangent there. Going on a tangent is indicative of a weak mind, Dawes. I would never go on a tangent. Only thing left is the evaluation. What gets evaluated? Total financial worth for insurance purposes. Yeah, the insurance companies made sure we had very accurate algorithms for this. No room for human error, they insisted, with no sense of irony. It's gonna be expensive. Wow. I mean, I knew it was custom, but what price could they have possibly? That's a lot of digits. I've talked about this before, but if you are new here, Morgan's eyes will sometimes be red and sometimes be sort of almost like pitch black. I do like when they accent her eyes for emphasis. You should know these formulae are pretty conservative with their estimates. Stingy, even. If Sarah's really David's last and greatest work, they say some things are priceless, but when you force an insurance algorithm to pick a number. Sarah evaluation. Why is this evident? Evaluation of the android Sarah's financial value by an insurance algorithm takes into account the fact that Sarah is the only known android made by David Ashore, the last known piece of tech he worked on, and the fact that he is now deceased and cannot create any more, the fact that Sarah is one of a kind, the value of the components used in her construction, and the potential profits reaped from the experimental technology contained within her, totals to a very large sum. Interesting that they're not giving us a number, but I kind of like that, actually. Try not to get any scratches on it, I guess. You spoke differently back there. With Dawes, you spoke like he did, it seemed. Like I copied his accent? You seemed to mirror his affect, his tone. It's called being friendly. What's your point? It was just an observation. You can choose to keep those to yourself, you know. No tenant required. Why were you so concerned about registering me in the first place, Adonai? For the same reason I wouldn't drive around in a car without a license plate? Any cop, or even just a well-placed camera, could have spotted your barcode and seen that it wasn't set up with any actual data. And then they would have arrested me, and then they would have thrown me in the slammer. No, they would have arrested me and put you in an evidence locker. An android can't get arrested? People get arrested. Property gets seized. And smashed. Great, you put us over the weight limit. I did no such. Ooh, hell yeah. Little bit of that Wayland Yutani heavy-handedness. Morgan, counselor, your presence has been requested on the upper floors. Who's asking? Vice President of Android Futures, Helen Jung. Oh, so we've seen Helen's name before. Helen worked with David Ashore, I think. I don't know where we'd be able to find that at this point. But I think that name is familiar to us. Shouldn't have assumed I still had the opening move. Tell her I'll be right up. I'll redirect your elevator now. Taking control of your elevator is very convenient, forceful, as if Noble is trying to directly steer your investigation. If Noble wanted to shut me down, they wouldn't bother to be subtle. I suppose they could simply refuse to cooperate. Or just let the elevator drop. They're megacorps. They do not operate under the same rules that people do. Oh, and I didn't mention this earlier, but in case you couldn't tell by cyberpunk dystopia, this is, of course, set in the future. The year is 2086. Noble Electronics Northeastern Headquarters. Same place we've been. Executive Office. So I keep saying Jung. I've only been aware of this more recently because of a couple of characters that I've come across where it's the J is pronounced more like a Y sound. It's not Young, is it? First thought, and I know this is wild, the color of the text is coded to the characters, right? So obviously Morgan's is red, Sarah's is green. The fact that I assume this is Young's is blue, but the way that they color this shot, right? Lots of blacks, lots of reds, lots of whites, oranges, obviously variants, but the fact that the color of the text for the question marks for the name and ostensibly maybe the text, I don't know if the question marks have always been this color of blue, but it stands out like a sore thumb, right? Like that the color scheme of the room, that this shot is so specific, and yet maybe who this person is, what they stand for, what their thoughts are, seems to be in direct contrast to what they are doing in this exact moment. Extremely good. Right. Speaking first is a sign of weakness, is it? And here I thought I could avoid wading into the swamp of corporate pretend power dynamics. My unpaid editor told you to tell me Emma's question marks were purple. Oh, that's interesting. What color is Emma's text? Yeah. Speak first, letter stew. Wow, wild. And again, highlighting what we've been informed previously, when you hover over the text that you hover over, making the other text grayed out, means that you will not be able to choose the other option, obviously. Obviously, if you speak first, you cannot not speak first. We don't have a profile for Young. Let's operate under the assumption that she did work with David Ashore, because I cannot remember if that is true or not. But let's operate under that assumption. Let's operate under the assumption that, right, like this is a situation that maybe she doesn't want to be in either. Assuming a position of like weakness in the corporate power play dynamics, at worst case scenario is true, and at best case scenario is getting her to underestimate us. So play the part. Speak first. Cannot say much from memory otherwise. Yes. Tell my unpaid editor thanks. Speak first. I don't have time for this inverted staring contest. Enjoying the view? I love Young. Man, any voice I give them is going to be insufficient. I always liked this time of day. Not too muggy for you? No. I never liked a clear blue sky. Blue hair, blue text. It always seemed cold to me. You're in luck. The sky gets more colorful every year. As the air quality drops. Childish, isn't it? Marveling at the small sheen of rainbow dancing on the surface of a massive oil spill. This is I have not played all of Disco Elysium. I have played maybe 1 or 2 hours at maximum. But this is like when you meet your first corpo in Disco Elysium and all of the voices are like screaming different things. I love Young. Apologies for waxing poetic. It's been a very unusual 24 hours around here. Dr. Young, just Miss is fine. Is that more formal or less formal? Oh, Doctor versus Miss. I see. Okay, gotcha. I cannot remember if she worked with frickin' David Asher or not. Date of birth December 9th, height 166 centimeters, weight 59 kilograms, blood type AB positive. That's rough, girl. Occupation, Vice President of Android Futures at Noble Electronics. Likes red meat, flower gardens, high thread counts. Okay, fair enough. Dislikes working from home, shopping online, waiting. Wild. Okay. Languages, fluent in 3. Which language is 3? Enjoys attending baseball games. Hidden talent, getting children to stop crying. Well, yeah, fair enough. This reminds me that like political scientists really like baseball games, and like you might think like, oh, haha, hee hee ho ho. Baseball is like America's pastime or whatever, right? And truly, it is not for that, rather for mathematics and statistics, which I think is very fun. Miss Young, I get the feeling you didn't bring me up here to talk about the weather. No, I brought you up here to express my condolences. I'm very sorry for your loss. If this is a corporate power play, she's doing a fucking phenomenal job of it. Thank you, though I could say the same. I know you and David, there we go. I know you and David worked together for many years. Yes, we did. But as much as I'd like to just drop everything and process, the company wheels don't stop spinning for any or anyone. Was Dawes of any help? He sent him. Trying to be helpful or just trying to control the narrative? He was great, but that must mean you know why I'm here. I don't want to make assumptions. No need, I'll be explicit. I'm here as an officer of the court, which means I'm bound by law to document every rock I turn over, and every person I speak to. Yes, the lawyers made that all very clear. Lawyers. Yes, Sarah, lawyers. That's the position that Morgan occupies. I know it's not like that, but like it was just a very funny like just cut. You have an android. It's not one of ours. You can tell that quickly. Got all the faces memorized? It's easy enough to remember the major archetypes we use, yes. If you're nuts about your work, maybe. It's a recent acquisition. Very recent, in fact. One of David's last requests, apparently. David asked you to take it. I love her. Holy shit. Because like here's the thing about this entire situation, right? Like the blue and orange color scheme, sure, absolutely. But I like this situation of, because like we don't know what her intentions are. We don't know anything about her. We know that in the interest of working for the company, she has literally worked together with another employee of the company. Two employees of a company working together does not friendship make, right? But when Morgan gives back the I should be offering my same condolences to you, and she sort of takes it in stride, what does that mean? What does any of this mean? It's a part of the reason why I really like Strahd, right? So Barovia has existed since 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons. Obviously, you had Expedition to Castle Ravenloft. I don't know if 4th edition had Strahd and Barovia, but then in 5th edition you have Curse of Strahd, right? And one of the things that makes Strahd so interesting is that obviously Strahd is the big bad. He's the titular character, but in the process of holding all of the cards, right? In the process of Strahd choosing what he conveys and when he conveys it, that makes him interesting, right? Like if the big bad shows up and is like, I punch your character's kidneys out and then I fly away laughing maniacally, you're like, this is nothing. But if a character of significance shows up and goes, how is the tea? You're like, what does this mean? Why are you talking about the tea? Did you poison the tea? Did you give me the tea? Is the tea a sign of friendship? Is the tea a declaration of war? What did I not know about the tea, right? Like I love Young's usage and positioning here, because the setup of this is a new android. She's obsessive about androids. David told me to take it. David asked you to take it. What is the thing that we are upset about here? Are we upset about the idea of David giving away an android? Is there a back relationship there? Does Young already know about Sarah, and so therefore that is what's upsetting her? Is it for Young the idea of it, right? Like, we just don't know. In this moment, there is so much weight and so many potential branching things for Young's character that, like, I feel the hairs on my body standing on. Like, it could be anything. It's good to see you, Red Jacket. Hello, hello. No worries, Maz. I accidentally streamed an hour earlier because I am an idiot. But yeah. I've been told that you've been to David's estate already. The police gave me full access to the scene. Then you know that he wasn't alone last night. Oh, was Young there? Yes. There was a single witness who met with him and called emergency services when he fainted. I was that witness. I don't know. I'm not going to say that. Water glass. A glass of water found in the sink of David Assure's kitchen bears Helen Young's DNA and fingerprints. No trace of any poison. Young is positioned so well here. Speaking of water, I did not bring my water into the room. I will be right back. Dun, dun, dun. Exactly, under pressure. Okay.
My IQ needs a boost, chat, so I'm getting smart water to make me smarter. I want okay, here are the two situations. One, I want David Assured to have committed suicide, and then for Morgan to defend him, and then due to a failure of Emma Rockford, David Assured does not get like convicted of committing suicide. Two, I want Young to have killed him, and Young to just like play it so ice cold that no one ever knows, you know? Really? Obviously, there aren't that many people David would bother meeting with in person, let alone welcoming them into his home and offering them a drink. I also knew that Young was his superior, on paper, if not in fame. And I knew that the witness had Executive Plan 3 insurance, so they had to be higher up than David. Your little deduction, Sherlockian aside. Well then, do the lawyers know we're having this conversation? Of course. They're pulling their hair out about it as we speak. I can't imagine why. The police cleared you. And you were well within your rights to ask for some privacy, given the high-profile nature of all that's happened. Isn't she too obvious of a suspect? There was a thing. So I don't know if you know the meme, the butler did it. But that's like a pretty common modern thing when you're in like a murder mystery or whatever, right? And the thing is that the reason why we say it now is because it's so overdone. It's so obvious. But when it was first introduced, and I cannot remember the name of the original murder mystery that it was introduced in, the idea of a major domo murdering their master, their lord, however you want to describe it, was so foreign and strange that it was, in fact, shocking. The idea of a batman, a butler, whatever have you, whatever classification of servant for your European gentry that they were. The idea of them killing you because they have such sensitive access to your neck when they're giving you a shave, or to your food to poison you. Just that realization of vulnerability was so shocking to that aristocratic element that the reason why it became so ubiquitous was because of how theoretically subtle it could be. Now, I'm not saying that's the same thing with Young, but what I am saying is that whether or not she is the murderer, whether or not she is our prime suspect, is only obvious, not obvious, with the benefit of hindsight. Before we know for a fact what's going on, literally everyone is a suspect. I still don't know that I cleared Morgan for the murder of David Ashore, right? I don't trust any of these motherfuckers. So why call me up here? Why cut through all the red tape your lawyers painstakingly hid you behind? Eventually, you, or some clever lawyer like you, would get the record open, through legal means or otherwise. The company's enemies are legion, and they have a prying knife for every occasion. Still, that would have taken time. Time you could use to get ahead of what could be the biggest PR hurdle Noble's ever seen. Touché. The thing is that I'm willing to believe that Young is sincere. And that makes me worried. And so perhaps the truth of the matter is that I simply didn't want to hide. David was my colleague for several years. Interesting choice of words. Everything that she is saying is interesting, right? If I were in your shoes, I would have questions as well. You're doing this for my sake.
No, my reasons are purely selfish. I'm only hoping that talking to someone whose job isn't to defend me from all consequences might prove therapeutic. Sure. She wants to play confessional. That's fine by me. Is that really all that's going on here?
Maybe.
Why don't you start from the beginning, then? You went to his home last night? Yes, at around 7:30 p.m. The building's penumbra captured all that quite clearly. He fell ill around 8 p.m., so you spent half an hour together. We have... I think it's the manufacturer. A machine capable of assembling organic or inorganic compounds, and even nanomachines after just 2 minutes of vacuum-sealed mixing. Found at Noble's factory show floor, machines just like it are used throughout the production process of making their warm androids. So the nanofacturer was found in David's basement. We also have the timetable, right? Witness arrived at 7:30 p.m., which fits what Young is saying. Witness spoke with David in his parlor before he left to retrieve liquor from his basement at 7:36 p.m. Upon returning at 7:38 p.m., the two of them continued speaking while they both drank. So that's literally that perfect 2 minutes that the nanofacturer needs to make something. So obviously we know the nanofacturer is a big part of this. What it is a big part of... He fell ill around 8 p.m., so you spent half an hour together? Why the late call in person? We had an intense discussion yesterday afternoon. David never came in on Saturdays, and I didn't want to spend the weekend glaring at him through screens, so I visited, and he let me in, and we talked. About the good old days, if you can believe that. I very much believe that Dr. David Ashore is sentimental. Yes, I very much believe that. Back when we were both new to the company, eager to make a name for ourselves. I watched a recent, I listened to a recent video essay on early video game development and the sort of like way that companies like Blizzard and EA used people's love of the idea of making games being a part of the process to be like, well, you're going to put in the overtime, right? Because you love this cushy dream job. And so you're just going to do unprocessed, unregistered overtime for the love of the craft. And it's like, yeah, okay, if people choose to do that, that's one thing. But man, megacorps, huh? Seven or 8 years ago? Miss Young? Putting a number on it, it doesn't sound that long ago, but it feels... ahem. We spent a while like that, just talking. Entertainment industry is one of the most predatory when it comes to getting highly skilled workers at low wages, overtime, etc. I don't think that's right for the entertainment industry. Los Angeles? Hollywood? No. No. We spent a while like that, just talking. He was lively and sharp, and I never would have thought that a few minutes later, that he would be dead. That he would commit suicide in front of me. A firm reply. What happened? The thing that I'm curious about is what Ace Attorney does to make you feel not guilty about cross-examination is the Ace Attorney series makes the witnesses have breakdown shots. And those breakdown shots are to like convey to you that you're on the right path, to assuage any sense of guilt that you, the player, might have. I am so curious to see if we get something similar from Young. 8:15, he said he wanted to toast. He got up, walked back into his workshop, and then he must have went down into his basement to get us a bottle. Nope, sorry, that's not right. I checked some messages in the meantime. Enjoyed the view. In other words, she stayed on camera. He came back with a bottle of whiskey and 2 plastic cups. We drank and talked. He got quieter, spoke less. I thought he was just getting drunk. I didn't get worried until he started to fall asleep. You tried to wake him. He wasn't responding. I tried to shake him awake, but he didn't seem. I left him and ran to the kitchen to use the security system. Didn't think to use your phone? No. I suppose I didn't. Also, the salt shaker. A salt shaker that was accidentally knocked over during the investigation. The cap was loose, and so salt spilled all over the countertop next to the sink. Am I crazy? Like, it's such a, oh, this is a red herring, that like, it makes me think it isn't a red herring. But we don't have anything like. Oh, also, while I was at David Assure's place, I thought I would pull a funny prank on him. So I loosened the cap of his salt shaker, so that way when he went to put salt on his food, it would pour out a bunch of salt, just like the good old days. Like, what am I expecting? Like, it's weird. It's weird to give me an entire piece of evidence for it, but we get red herring pieces of evidence. I don't know. I suppose I didn't, but it worked out. The Penumbra's emergency protocol summoned a VTOL straight to his helipad with one button press. When I returned to the parlor, he was limp. I moved him to the floor as delicately as I could. He had a heartbeat, but I just did what I could until they arrived. You went with them to the hospital, I take it? Yes, they insisted. They checked my vitals and ran a tox screen, which came back clean. So did David's, for all the good it did him. I wasn't paying close attention to what they were saying at that point. But I'm sure they ran through every step of the CCE SOP. Standard Operating Procedures is SOP. CCE is the... Contraband... No, what is the CCA? No, CCE. CCE, Standard Operating Procedures. That's what they're paid to do. You seem certain that it was suicide. Yes. Why? As I said, he got quieter as the time passed, and he spoke less. But the last thing he said to me, the last clear thing he said, was that he was happy ending it here. Said he was content. And he downed his glass after that. He drank every last drop. Does that sound like David Assure to you? Curious, restless, perfectionist David? No, I guess it doesn't. And so now we know we can ask about all of these. Okay, yeah. CCE, what does that stand for? You said CCE, Standard Operating Procedure, a moment ago. What is that? Ah, yeah, you know what? That's insane, but it makes sense. CCE stands for Counter Corporate Espionage, which is just industry doublespeak for corporate espionage. Yeah, of course. Only used in self-defense, you understand? So, Noble anticipates employees at your level getting poisoned. They give us all kinds of CCE training. Subtly, of course, usually disguised on the itinerary as leadership workshops or psychiatric evaluations. Oh no! Psychiatric evaluations just makes me think of mouthwashing! They train you to expect to get murdered at these leadership workshops. Murder is fairly rare at our level. More likely they'll want us too sick to work. Let us drain company resources in a hospital bed while our position sits vacant. That's smart. Like snipers purposefully avoiding vital areas to strain the enemy's medical resources. That's terrible. Like snipers purposefully avoiding vital areas in order to strain the enemy's medical resources. It is so funny to hear Sarah in general. David Ashore saddling Morgan with Sarah is like, what's the name of the guy from the Pinocchio fairy tale where he gives Pinocchio Jiminy Cricket or whatever, or with the fairy? I don't remember anything about Pinocchio, but like Sarah is like Morgan's little conscience, and that's so funny to me. That's nothing compared to when they want to turn an asset. Feel ill for the rest of your life with an undiagnosable malady, or become our mole and we'll send you the antidote every 2 weeks. Oh, that's classic stuff. Jiminy Cricket, yeah. But like, who gave Pinocchio Jiminy Cricket, right? That's a nasty piece of work. It's a nasty line of work. Consulting. I'm sorry? That's just what they call it. Can't exactly put corporate spy on your CV. If every consultant I've met at a cocktail party was actually... It depends. Did they say they're consultants? Or did they say that they were in consulting? How the hell am I supposed to remember? So do your people think that what happened to David was a deliberate attack? Noble's competitors have been trying to get to David for years. And that's the timescale their plans operate on. If this was an attack from a rival corporation, the company would have seen it coming. So what's very funny about this is when I talk about space politics, I talk about the CCB, which is the Crux Cathar Bureau, which was the House Crux Intelligence Agency. Very funny stuff. Counter-corporate espionage, a playbook of aggressive defensive tactics for everything from public life to personal security, intended to help high-value members of a corporate body minimize risk to themselves and the company. Frequently involves the use of double talk and coded language, including hiding the training as leadership workshops or psychiatric evaluations. Individuals at or above David Ashore and Helen Young receive training in it multiple times a year. And they probably have struck first. The cups. I've been curious about this ever since I saw the scene. Why the plastic cups? It's red Solo cups. There's a story there. David and I got hired around the time under similar circumstances. Headhunted while finishing our higher education. During recruiting, the company claimed to want us badly, but in practice, our actual authority was inexperienced and overpaid. You must have been extremely unpopular. What? During recruiting, the company claimed to want us badly, but in practice, our actual authority was inexperienced and overpaid. What? You don't mince words. We didn't either, back then. We were loudly trying to convince our superiors that their entire sales model for androids was antiquated and self-defeating. The two of them made the one-point doctrine? That's not the story I've heard in Noble commercials and Noble-sponsored media. And come to think of it, it's not a story I ever heard from David himself. We had this deadline, self-imposed, but still a deadline. We wanted to get our pitch to the president of international sales by end of day. 7 p.m. rolls around and people start filtering out. I like this scene change. Very good. It also reminds me of March in Line, another piece of media that End Circles does. And no other media does it. Only March in Line. David still has his head buried in diagrams and sales figures. Imagine a technical man like him, a programmer, trying to make a sales pitch. The clock hits 9 and even the zombies start heading home. I turn to David, tell him that it's not going to happen. We're nowhere near finished and the day's long since been over. He looked at me like I'm the only other person on a sinking boat, and I've just stopped pitching water, and he says, "The president lives on the other side of the globe. We've still got all night until his end of day." We wrapped up at 4 in the morning, just us and the cleaning staff. Back then, only half of them were ads. He finally sends the message and I'm ready to collapse. I've got nothing. We stare blankly at his inbox for the next 40 minutes, hoping that the harsh light would give us the energy to work through the next day. And we got a response. It wasn't long, but it showed he was interested. I had been turned down so many times before then, ignored and placated, passed up and ghosted, but together, David and I, we had finally gotten a win. So David asks if I've got anything to drink. I've got a bottle of some swill in a cabinet at my desk, but he doesn't want to drink from the bottle, because he wants to toast. So we sat there at 5:19 in the morning, toasting awful vodka to one another in cups we grabbed from the break room. This shot rocks and sucks. One of my favorite things are those like theater masks. I can't remember their name right now, but the comedy and tragedy, right? And so like at some point in time, every emo goth scene kid gets like one of those masks where it's like smiling on one side and like crying on the other, right? And the point is the masks we wear. I think I also at some point in time in like high school like got like a paper plate and like drew like a smiling face on it and like held that paper plate over my face. Like it was super artsy, like, oh, the mask I'm wearing is that I'm happy, but on the inside I'm tortured. But like there's something to it here as well, right? Which is like the emotion that is ostensibly trying to be conveyed is happiness. But look at this sort of grain filter over it, right? Why is that there? Is it just to convey the nostalgia of memory? Is there something more? Like the two of them together in this moment could be any other group of friends. And this entire story could be 100% fabricated, nothing other than what Young is making up in this moment. We have no idea. We literally have nothing to substantiate this entire thing. Toasting our first victory against the corporate beast. Between the lack of sleep and the drinking, the next day at work was hell. Sounds like a good memory. Plastic cups and liquor. That was our little ritual. Yeah! Yeah! Evidence! Uh-huh! Could be a red herring as well. David Assure and Helen Young started at Noble at the same time and position. They would often toast their hard-won victories with cheap liquor and plastic cups in commemoration of their first big win, convincing Noble Electronics to adopt what became known as the one-point doctrine, approaching to Android manufacturing, emphasizing quality over quantity. So I didn't think twice when he presented me with my cup. Young's cup, A plastic cup with a small amount of whiskey left in it, found upright on the dining table at the scene of the crime. Saliva and fingerprints match Helen Young, contains no traces of foreign elements. So these are some updates we're getting to our evidence. It was ceremony for us. History with Noble. As vice president of Android Futures, you're David's superior, aren't you? That's correct. Didn't you join the company at around the same time? David was always more interested in his work than he was in climbing the ladder. He didn't like playing the corporate politics game. So was he unpopular around here? Not unpopular, no. Not the great Dr. David Assure, right? So, like, they're giving us motivation here, right? They're like, oh, well, Young could be jealous of the fact that David Assure was always the one who was being, like, credited with the 1-point doctrine when she was just as contributive, right? Like, and in the story that we got just now, in the story that we just got, right? She was talking about how she was passed over, how she was ignored. And Assure, for all intents and purposes, seems to be using masculine pronouns, right? It could be a situation where if you wanted to fabricate a motive for Young, why did he get to be the genius while she had to be the woman behind the genius? You know what I mean? But I don't know that I necessarily am on board with that yet. Just because a square is also a rectangle doesn't mean that a rectangle is a square, etc., etc. Misunderstood, perhaps. How so? He could be blunt, demanding, some might say. He wasn't trying to be, it's just not everyone could work at the same pace as he did, for as long as he did. Even with the whole company huffing those inhalers, they couldn't keep pace with David. Speaking of which, I don't see any at Young's desk. I'm still holding on to my hypothesis that that David Assure has already been replaced with an ad, like ages ago. Maybe it's just not something you leave out in the open at her level. So you would say that his work-life balance was... Balance implies the two are at odds with one another. We use work-life harmony here at the company. Fascinating. So was he in harmony? No. David always had plenty of suitors, but he was never willing to put the time in. But I'm sure you're more knowledgeable than I am on that subject. Right. What do you mean? I had to help him draft a lot of apology notes over the years for misunderstandings and double bookings. Jesus, imagine doing a double booking. Couldn't even be me. Just scandalous. The A16 only entered production this year, correct? Correct. Pre-orders started last holiday and we began shipping in the first quarter. I understand that you were instrumental in the success of Warm Androids. I played my part supervising the launch, yes. Weren't you the one who designed cyanotonin, the factor that enabled communication between synthetic and organic parts? So Morgan literally just learned this from Dawes, right? But the point is that she was paying attention. I'm surprised you've heard of that. I did lead that project, yes, but that was years ago. At the time, cyanotonin was little more than a novelty, a dead end. It wasn't until David took the reins on the A16 that we found a use for it. Took the reins? He was lead programmer on limb coordination, facial expression, exhaustion parameters. And he designed the synthetic nerves that made all of that possible. And David did all of that? That's a lot more than just programming. Was he always so gifted in that many fields? Did he fill those roles on the A14 or A15? No. He used to stick steadfast to his role as a software architect. That was his field of expertise, and he didn't wander far.
My current working hypothesis is that David Ashore was murdered years ago by Noble. Noble made a new ad of David Ashore, and David Ashore used the A16 as a testing ground to see what he could use. The ad David Ashore used the A16 as a testing ground for how he could kill himself. That is my current hypothesis. I know that's insane, but I've learned that with End Circle, my most insane takes are very pedestrian. No, he used to stick steadfast to his role as a software architect. That was his field of expertise, and he didn't wander far. But 2 or 3 years back, he started sitting in on other departments, taking notes. Soon, he was joining the discussion, proposing new ideas. And eventually, they came to follow his lead. Just like that. Just like that. So he just applied himself, and soon he was leading other departments? That's the kind of genius that Dr. David Ashore was. Maybe they weren't paying him enough. The company profited the most, of course, but the entire industry benefited from his vision and leadership. His loss will be felt for years. Sarah. So this android, Sarah, even Dawes couldn't find any real details on where it came from. It's not in any of our systems. I'm afraid not. Did David ever talk to you or anyone else at the company about a pet project? Pet? No. He never gave me any indication like that. And if he didn't talk to me about it, I seriously doubt he confided in anyone else at the company. David didn't trust anyone higher on the chain than himself, and anyone below him, frankly, they couldn't possibly hope to give him advice. Okay.
He never mentioned me. No, never. Androids don't come cheap. You never heard about him requisitioning parts or resources? There were never any discrepancies with his company credit card? The company's accountants are mirthless, even by industry standards. They wouldn't humor anybody, not even David Ashore. If they had ever detected financial discrepancies, there would have been an uproar loud enough that you could hear it from in the mailroom. You have a mailroom.
Okay, Sarah.
Not since the 30s, just a figure of speech. He couldn't have taken resources from the company without leaving a record, but no one would deny Dr. David Ashore information. He would have been able to obtain all the necessary data to build his own android. Then, with enough time and money, he could privately purchase the raw materials himself. I don't understand it. It must have taken him years to build Sarah.
And also, right, the whole military grade skeleton. I'm sure if you were the military supply office, right, and you got a request from the Bill Gates of androids, hey, can I have a cool robot skeleton? You wouldn't be absolutely not under any circumstances, no. But that would be a wild conversation to have.
He wasn't doing anything illegal. Except the hacking stuff. So why keep it a secret? I don't know. But he was private and a perfectionist. Perhaps he simply wasn't proud of his results.
Damn, Sarah! No, girl! No!
Could be. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to me. Young statement. Fair enough. I'm sure this has been a difficult day for you. A difficult day for all of us. There is something here. Like, again, right? Like, what's stopping them from just making ads that look like everybody? And the answer is that, like, you have to assume a certain degree of, like, whatever, right? Because, like, for me, I'm looking at this and I'm going, you could have gotten an ad of Young to go to David Assure's apartment, do all of the things that they mentioned, right? Automated dependents apparently have to eat, apparently have to sleep. So you could have gotten an ad of Helen Young to David Assure's apartments to do all of the things that she's saying. And she's like basically Noble just comes in and they're like, okay, we're going to coach you on all of the things that you're saying that you witnessed because of the camera footage that we have. And this Helen could have never showed up there. You know what I mean? Like, truly, when you have perfect mimicry, nothing is off the table. So the assumptions that we have to make are that Noble Industries really does keep barcodes on these things. That the very notion of making a perfect replica of a head executive or whatever would not be possible to be hidden. Because otherwise, we are just truly stuck in the weeds. A message from Fran? I'm running out of leads to chase. The brat better have good news. Are you really going to take this to court? That's my plan. The circumstances may be irregular, but I'm still defending a client from a criminal charge. It's my responsibility to argue that he's not guilty of what he's been accused of. And is that what you believe? That he didn't commit suicide? I guess I haven't decided what I believe. In transit. Would you kindly slow the hell down? Oh my god, it's a BioShock reference! I'm sorry, Adonai. Was I walking too quickly for you? That wasn't walking. That was speed walking. Up 2 flights of stairs. It's very different. Speed walking. Sounds like a powerful technique. Is it like the Zhenjiao? Just let me catch my breath for a minute. Adonai, is it possible that you are out of shape? Very funny. Ooh. Have we had these little like splash screens where it's using like these red and blue accents before? I think this is our first time seeing it. No. But since we left the cab, your heart rate has. It's almost like Morgan of the Devil is a smoker. I'm not wearing the right clothes or the right shoes. Is that so? Yes. Also, I didn't stretch or hydrate, and the sun's reaching its zenith. Fun fact about parables about Christian knights is that quite a few of them would have anecdotes about how a knight's strength was its strongest when the sun was directly overhead, and grew in strength as we got closer to noon, and then waned in strength as you got towards the evening. Truly, those parables were nothing, but as a little kid, I thought they were fascinating. So. That would have been several hours ago. Did you mean the air temp? You said it would be a short walk from street level, so I prepared myself, mentally, for a short walk. Then you took off like a rocket, and you didn't mention we'd have to go upstairs. Thank you for the hydrate redeem. Wirebound? Are you sure this place is even back here? The reviews online were quite clear. It's worth the trouble finding it. Yeah, it's not like in an era in which you could have an automated dependent just sit there writing fake reviews. But something like that could be done. Maybe if you're a mountain climber. This is also making me think of Chongqing. When I sent Fran hunting for a musician in David's circles, I expected them to bring me someone from the city orchestra or a jazz club. The champagne flute and teacup kind of musician. But this is the tequila and neon part of town. It should be in view if we turn. Adonai, be careful. Heads up that there's another ad break coming up here. We are going to be powering through that. Deepest apologies as always. Of what? It's a stray, and it's bearing its fangs too. Look at this, right? The shot that we had of Young's story had this exact same sort of like film grain staticky texture over it. It's a stray, and it's bearing its fangs too. It could be carrying diseases. You should relax. Adonai, it's growling. It's not growling at me. See? So it's just me that it doesn't like. Too much static. What? How'd you get it to calm down? It's an animal, not a monster. It wants to be calm. Okay, Morgan of the Devil. Let's hear what your boo window has to say. Do you like animals? What kind of cold-blooded freak doesn't like animals? Morgan of the Devil, you are that kind of freak. Evangeline of the Devil, Morgan, you are the kind of cold-blooded freak that I would suspect doesn't like animals. Do you have a pet? Nope, never have. Why not? Because I don't want to take care of a pet. That seems counterintuitive to me. Well, it makes perfect sense to me, and I don't need it to make sense to you. But you notice you're only this talkative when it's just the two of us? Just an observation. You shy or something? Did David program you to have android anxiety? God, I wish I was programmed to have android anxiety, because that could theoretically mean it could be programmed out of me. It's generally only appropriate to respond to comments that are addressed to oneself. Today, I have been rarely addressed directly by people other than you. Yep. In other words, you're shy. That is not what I... Can I try petting it? There's no law against it. Do they mean that literally? Do animals have a unique body chemistry that like can dogs literally sense static? Is that a thing? I'm about to Google, can dogs sense static? Can dogs sense static? I know they have heightened senses that we're not aware of. Animals can sense a lot of things, yeah. Dogs can sense a lot of different things with regards to the human body, but you don't know about static. Yeah, curious. I'm so interested in the science behind this as well, yeah. Okay, anyways, sorry. Ultraviolet. Sure. This is the establishment. The fact that they have a Tory gate immediately. All right. Buckle up, cowpokes. Now to see if Isaac Porter is as habitual as Fran claims. Do you think Father was close with this man? This man who you've never met? I think he was close with him, yeah. At some point. Excuse me. Kaguya moment? Maybe. I had some help making that deduction. Kaguya is a character who is introduced to us as this like character whose identity is hidden, and they've got basically a VTuber persona, right, or a Daft Punk sort of thing. So that's sort of Kaguya moments here. Dogs can sense static when it's going to storm, but also possible in this context. The dogs can hear the mechanisms inside of Sarah versus normal humans. Fascinating. As we have been given reason to believe by Noble Industries, to be fair, that the androids have very near human chemical reactions inside of them. But that's not to say that the dogs wouldn't be able to sense that, which is very cool. I appreciate you looking that up, yeah. Fran saw that their metadata had shown a significant cooling of interaction between the two of them, particularly over the last two. Jesus Christ! I have lost the ability to read. I had some help making that deduction. Fran saw that their metadata showed a significant cooling of interaction between the two of them, particularly over the past month. But Fran also saw a phone call between the two last night. So they were close. Do you think they were sleeping together? Sure, fair. Dogs can sense when a human is about to seize or when their blood sugar drops to dangerous levels. So people keep service dogs for health reasons. Dog sensing things in robots for a science fiction fantasy tracks. Should House Crux have used more dogs? That is completely inappropriate for me or anyone to speculate about. The idea that David Ashore and this Isaac Porter, sleeping together. Inappropriate. Aiden, it's only hell yeah, Sarah. Love a sex-positive sovereign. I'm getting a very important text message from my private investigator. Excuse me. Did you catch the killer yet? No. WTH, I sent you his POS. I'm at his position. I haven't spoken to Porter yet. Anyway, there's no reason to suspect him right now. Lame. Surprised you're invested all of a sudden. Isn't David Ashore a corporate sellout in your eyes? Everyone's a corporate sellout. But Ashore gets respect. If I'm a demolitions expert, he's like a really good architect. That's almost sweet, I think. Ashore started out working in Cube. So in the architect analogy, by today's standards, he's like IDK. As a kid, he built all his bricks by hand. Or something. You know that lit homework can help you with forming analogies. Eat this analogy. Did that come through or did the characters break? It's supposed to be a guy giving you the finger. Hilarious. Just because it's near human to us doesn't mean it's the same to animals. You doubt android creators ask dogs for their opinions? Very fair, Miles. Yeah. You love the chibi, Fran. I thought you hated chibis. Dang, I'm looking spiffy tonight. Well, what can I say, DeMarca? We have been dressing up for our dates with Of the Devil. Every episode that we have done so far of this, which I think we're now on part 3, part 4 maybe, we've been dressing up in this exact same outfit, so you know. I take it Cube is a programming language? What's special about it? It has been described as Toxic Yuri Ace Attorney. It gets a lot of its inspiration from Danganronpa and like other murder mystery stuff. I don't know if you've seen me play episode 0 because that was a million billion years ago, but it is genuinely very good. You can get episode 0 for free. That's the demo basically. And I definitely highly recommend. There's going to be potentially some spoilers in here for you checking it out yourself, but it's like, I was about to say it's like a quid, and then I realized I don't know how much a quid is, nor have I ever used that turn of phrase before. So I'm gonna blame it on Fran, but yeah. Delightfully devilish, Seymour. Okay. Pretty much anything coded in the last 20 years is web-based. You code with the assumption that you'll always be connected. So you can depend on having fat libraries of references to lean on. And if something does go wrong, your errors get reported to you automatically. But not Cube. You can look it up. But basically Cube was originally for robotics and like machinery. Stuff that had to operate in mines, under the ocean, middle of nowhere fields with 0 signal service. So Cube had to be self-sufficient. How rugged. Where to sure learn Cube anyway? It's older than dirt, from like the 40s. So we are in 2086. I don't know. I think his father had a machine shop or something? Vague. Yeah, well, David didn't like to talk about his family. I never asked. What did your private investigator have to say, Adonai? So quick, let's catch up on the coding language Cube. Cube was a Tier 5 programming language commonly used in mid-21st century robotics, intended to support robust behavior trees in low data stream environments. Its design philosophy emphasized lean, goal-oriented learning that would not be reliant on the bloated libraries and always online API popularized in the 2030s. Rousseau Fluff, real name unknown, first began working on Cube in 2044 as a part of a student robotics project. Cube 0.9 was released in 2045, and by 2048, Cube 3.1 had already found itself embedded in robotics engineering across the globe. Despite having what is considered a relatively high barrier to entry in user knowledge and execution, Cube gained widespread popularity, particularly among dissatisfied communities and third-world countries where internet access would remain unreliable for the next 2 decades as regional conflicts would continue. Infamously, Contra Fighter engineers utilized Cube during the 27-day siege to seize mechanized weapons from peacekeeping forces in a cyber warfare operation that was also cited as the key reason as to why the siege lasted as long as it did. Cube has not been developer supported since 2063 and is considered a defunct programming language. Because much of its documentation was never ported from the old net and due to its incompatibility with tenants, there was little to no corporate interest in the ongoing grassroots digital archaeology effort to archive it. There you go. Not telling what our corporate investigator had to say. So we can inspect the stage. We've got a person's outline. We can appraise the liquor that they have. And always more options pop up, right? But yeah. That one over there, he matches the photo Fran sent. Should I approach him now or look around some more? Oops! Look around some more, please. Better get a read on the room first. A bar stocked full of colorful selections and busy bartenders. Hope this isn't the kind of club you can order food in. Only time bar food is any good is when you're drunk enough to forget the taste and the gap between chewing and swallowing. So you can, like, eat things? Yes, I can. What, like Android food? There is no such product. So what do androids eat? Online user guides for Noble's warm models clarify that they don't eat anything in the traditional sense. They get their energy from electrical charging, usually wireless. Whenever they need to eat, it's to replenish specific vitamins and electrolytes. Sounds a lot like what mod users go through with their sports drinks and energy bars, and charger separation anxiety. According to the net, warm androids can ingest nutrient-rich processed carbohydrate pellets if they need to forego electrical charging long-term. Processed pellets? You mean like kibble? Like dog food? No, it is not like dog food at all. Can you buy it from the pet store? It seems that you can. How is this something you have to look up anyway? Because I've always just eaten whatever father gave me. Like what? Marbled beef, never hydroponic avocados, foie gras. Hell yeah! Never hydroponic food sourcing. Is this gonna be like an anti-GMO situation? Never Hydroponic is a movement calling for sourcing food exclusively from farms, utilizing natural sunlight. Boo! Boo, natural sunlight! All my homies hate natural sunlight. Stay indoors! Stay underground! Never see the light of the sun! Lobbyists for the movement have made unsubstantiated claims about superior taste or nutritional value, but the label has yet to receive official state recognition, and thus the presence of the term, or terms like it, on food packaging carries no weight and is not backed by any legal guarantee. One of a number of food sourcing movements that arose in the later half of the 21st century as rising sea levels reduced the total amount of arable land around the world and shifted the global agricultural industry towards hydroponics and vertical farms, rural skyscrapers, where each floor is utilized for food production, saving on real estate costs and reducing the impact of unstable weather on agricultural output. Also, something Ishgard would have to consider with regards to the fact that it is in fact a megacity, and also decreased arable farmland as the Seventh Emerald Calamity reduces space that can be used. Sit under a UV lamp for your nutrients like God intended. Come on. You think you're supposed to go out there under the sun? You get sunburns that way. You think that we were meant to be out under the sun if you get sunburned? Come on, sheeple, think. You were meant to be indoors in front of a computer screen 24 hours a day. Like me, your neighborhood-friendly DeMaiste. That sort of thing. I am not paying for any of that. Understandable. Ooh, there is a little pamphlet thing that we can read there as well. Okay, hold on. The stage for the talent, pretty close to the front, to the floor. Guess it fits with the whole round table aspect of the place. Everyone's on more or less equal footing, dancing in the dark, once you get past the bouncer. Do you think they might have met here? David and Porter? I can't see David walking in here. Because you found the walk so challenging? Because it's too loud to relax, and not dark enough to be anonymous. I see. What's that face? You got an opinion to share? I do love the, thinking emotes that they do. Very good. The atmosphere's not bad in here, but the music isn't quite... I'll find you a survey to fill out before we leave. What kind of music does an android even like? Early 21st century punk rock. Yeah, Sarah? Hell yeah. Is that just you, or does that go for all androids? I haven't met all androids. I can't speak for them. Wonder what they'd say. If they're smart, they'd say that music peaked with early 21st century punk rock. All right, Sarah, tone it back a little bit, girl. You're allowed to enjoy the music that you like, and other people are allowed to enjoy the music that they'd like, and it's not an indication of intelligence. Debate settled. People are allowed to enjoy music. Even country music. What kind of reading material gets left out in a club? A tabloid interview? Exclusive sit down with luxury. You've heard her name on everyone's lips. You've seen her face in magazines and commercials, and then double check to make sure the photos weren't labeled as edited. Now get all your burning questions about her answered here in our exclusive interview with the mysterious young woman who's being called, in perhaps the most truly unanimous vote the wet net's ever seen, the most beautiful woman in the world. Why the name? People think it's an ego thing, but it was just a random username I picked back when I was grassroots. Then it was a pseudonym to give me a little shade from all the attention. Now it's a brand. I can't change it without setting the stock market into a spin, so... You're certainly influential. After partnering with you, Inti saw a 3,000 increase in share prices. Yay! I'm happy for them, of course. But to be honest, it's a pain at times like these. She gestures towards her clothes, a plain white t-shirt and gym shorts with no branding visible. On anyone else, it might seem sloppy, or even unflattering. On her, it only makes her natural beauty stand out that much more. Who are you wearing, by the way? Can't wear anyone unless I'm attending something. If I don't dress like this, all my sponsors fall into bidding wars every time I leave the house. Truly, the problems of the rich and famous are incomprehensible. Does it stress you out, all that attention? Stress is bad for your skin, right? They say mine's flawless. Can't argue with that. So, do you have a skincare routine? Any tips you'd like to share? Be a little bratty, act a little spoiled, keeps you young. How old are you exactly? Everyone's dying to know. 18 to 29, now and forever. Don't get stuck on a cliffhanger like that. Hurry, log in below so you can read the rest. Quickly, time is running out. Very funny that her name is the most beautiful woman in the world, or is luxury her name? Why consider that? I gotta use the loo. I'll be right back. Oh, you ever make instant mac and cheese for lunch because you're like, oh, you know what sounds really good? I would like some instant mac and cheese because that sounds like a comfort thing. And then as you're making the instant mac and cheese, you're like, you know what would make this instant mac and cheese even better? Using actual milk to help thicken up the like cheese powder and to like give it like that creamier texture. And then have to pay the price for that later because you are lactose intolerant? No, me neither. Anyways, most beautiful woman, Luxury is her name. Okay. Well, however old she is or isn't, Luxury's got one hell of a mind for business. Might do her more good than that face in the end. Maybe. It's one hell of a face. In the meantime, she's powerless, powerful. Interesting. Are influencers powerless or powerful? Well, I mean, she's making claims that she can affect the stock market just based off of what she's wearing, right? So I would make the argument that that would be powerful if true. Some rises are too meteoric for even the Megs to grab the reins on. At this point, Luxury's got them at her mercy. She can send their stocks into disarray with one selfie. Good for her. I love him? Isaac Porter. Okay, yeah, that's him, all right. Looks like he's killing time before his sets tonight. You say influencers are powerful, but in reality, they are powerless to actually do anything. It depends, Clary, right? Like, I get what you are, definitely get what your position is on that, but I think a big problem with it too comes from the idea of social capital, right? And it's the same thing with political capital of any sense, is that the idea is that you get like really one or two big pushes that you get to do, and in part that comes from gathering the people around you, raising the war banners, stuff like that. You can even take my streams as an example of that, right? Like sometimes when it looks like I've got a higher view count, that's in part because of me going behind the scenes and being like, hey guys, this stream is really important, so can you please show up? Wink, blink, blink. And so like there's a little bit of like beating the war drums that you can do on a personal level. But also on a macroscopic scale, think about the Haktua girl, I think, right? Like she released a cryptocurrency, which was like Haktua coin. And then a bunch of people put money into it, and she did a pump and dump where she was like, okay, great, everyone is now buying this obviously fraudulent cryptocurrency. I'm going to sell all of mine while the prices are artificially inflated and leave, right? And so you might argue that, like, what level of power is that in functionality? But the level of power it was is that she got a ton of money relatively consequence-free. That's the power of influencers. Sucks that it's screwing over the common man in that instance, but you get it. I say the common man. I don't know many of the common man who invested in Haktua coin, but there you go. Are you unsure how to proceed, Adonai? I'm sure that you need to hang back. As for me, I'll play it cool, play it straight. Girl, you are here in a bolo tie and a suit. You do not get to play it cool. Isaac Porter? What's up? My name's Morgan. I was David's friend. Right now, I'm his lawyer. Can we talk? Depends. Were you a friend from work? No. Over here. Morgan? Straight? At that point, she was just a scammer. I've got bad news for you, Clary. The line between scammer and influencer is paper thin. Especially if the scam is a classic one, right? Like Ponzi schemes, Everything is reliant on that personal ethos. So you got a good man at the helm. Isaac Porter. Date of birth, September 18th, height 183 centimeters, blood type 86 kilograms, weight 86 kilograms, blood type B positive. Occupation, musician, bassist. Likes, itineraries, grilling, champagne. Dislikes, resistance training, producers, ads. The best at, gift giving. The worst at, folding laundry. Favorite quote, I don't do requests. Sorry, he is the best at gift giving? Are you sure? Also, funny that he likes itineraries. Very interesting. Okay, sure. Probably not Kaguya, right? But yeah. Don't thank me yet. I might just sit here, shut my mouth, and stick you with my tab. So what kind of lawyer are you? What kind of friend? I'm his defense attorney. Think you missed the bus on that then, yeah? And I'm a friend that needs to know what happened yesterday. Doesn't everyone? Try somewhere else, friendly lawyer. I haven't seen him in weeks. You might not have seen him, but we both know that you spoke with him over the phone yesterday. Only a short time before he died. How the hell, Isaac? It's pretty obvious that you don't want this particular spotlight to linger on you any longer than necessary, so why don't we cut to the chase? No lies, no playing coy. Fine. Sarah. Yes, Adonai? The hell? Is that thing transmitting? I am not streaming any data, no. Porter doesn't seem to recognize Sarah either. One more person David was keeping secrets from. I need to record everything for the court. Fine. You two were together, is that correct? We were together. I ended it. Yesterday. Oh man, that's not gonna help the suicide accusations, huh? Care to elaborate? On our entire relationship? Look, you can tell me everything once and I can get it on record, or you can hear the same questions over and over again from 1,000 different cops and Megs for the next 3 months. We met in a bar. I'd seen him come in a few times, each time with someone else, each time talking with his mouth but not looking with his eyes. It ticked me off. Scribbling on napkins, letting his single gin and tonic sweat on the table for 2 hours. His dates would all go to the bathroom or take a call and slip out the back. One of them didn't make it 10 minutes. He'd still sit there the rest of the night, unfazed. Couldn't tell if he was oblivious or stupid or shameless or the most confident man in the world. And he ticked me off. Sure. One night, things were slow and my set had been canceled and his date hadn't even bothered to think of an excuse before bailing, so I asked him why he'd insist on coming there night after night, just to ignore vapid people he wasn't interested in at a shitty bar with drinks he didn't like. And he just said, because I like your music. Oh, man, did that tick me off. It was cute early on. Him being so passionate about work I could barely pretend to understand. And I like that we gave each other space, you know? Felt like we were being mature or whatever. Until... There was no until. No one day where everything turned sour. But at some point, I started to understand where his priorities were, and how I ranked in them. Like I said, he was passionate about his work. I just wrongly assumed that he would also be that passionate about me at some point. Isaac, buddy. That's why you gotta go into communications right away. I'm so sorry, dude. That's rough. But if you don't set up expectations at the top, right? Woof. So I pulled away a little, wanted to see if he'd notice, if he'd miss me. Testing him, like that isn't the biggest red flag in the world. He never budged. I could ignore him for days and he wouldn't be the least bit ashamed to see me. If I picked a fight, he'd never get angry or upset. He'd just apologize. He didn't want to fight with me. Guess he was never invested enough to bother. Also, it does sound like you and him were just a bad match. It was my mistake. I watched him sit there all those nights not giving a shit when people walked away, and still I had this stupid idea that somehow, for whatever reason, I would be different. Folks at home, hey. Just know what you're getting into. Because some people don't want that level of commitment or attachment, and you shouldn't shame them for that, as long as they didn't lie to you or tell you differently, right? And also, it's fine to break up with people. Sometimes you're just different people, but also communicate with each other. Talk to each other. Tell each other about your hopes and dreams and expectations for the future. Talk about past relationships and why they didn't work out. Communicate. Risk over-communicating rather than under-communicating. Jeez Louise. That I would be special. But I wasn't. So I ended it. But how do you know you weren't special? Other than making assumptions by yourself. Because David Assure sucks at talking. Relationship advice stream win? No, it would be so bad. It would just, literally, it would be hours of me saying, talk to each other. Right? The problem comes from when one person starts to make assumptions. When one person, like, and it's the same problem with literally every other relationship. When you make a model of them in your head, and you talk to that model of them, versus the actual version of them, that's when it's all gonna break down, right? When you go, rather than talk to them about this because that risks a fight and I just don't wanna deal with that, so I'm just gonna bury it and sit on it and never address it. Like, always have the energy to have the fight about it if it's something that truly means something to you. So yeah. You can feel when you're not important to your partner. Truly, okay, love you. Truly a statement made from someone who did suffer neglect. And I'm gonna be so real with you, neglect is under communication, right? Like, that's the thing. Is that if they are over communicating, similarly, you can feel if you're not important to them, right? If they're telling you facts about themselves, if they're giving you information, if they're volunteering that kind of stuff, you will be able to tell, oh, like Isaac was saying, I wasn't factoring into his priorities. David Assure could not have cared about Isaac Porter. I'm not saying that David Assure did. I don't know. No one will know other than David Assure. But the point is that if David Assure doesn't say anything, if he's guilty of chronically under-communicating, Isaac Porter doesn't have any idea. He can make assumptions. He can make takeaways. But the level where he goes, oh, well, I knew, is where it falls apart. Because you cannot know. You can make assumptions, but the only way you can know is if you are them. Otherwise, it is an exercise in trust. You have to trust everyone at some level. When you ask someone, how's your day been? And they say, good, you just have to trust that they don't care enough to lie to you, to make a convoluted story up why the day is good if it's bad. That's why you take that at face value. If you say, hey, got any change for a $5 to the cashier, and the cashier says, nah, sorry, mate, I don't. You don't go, open your cash register and let me check the number of singles in your cash register. You go, okay, I trust that you wouldn't lie about that because that would be a weird thing to lie about, and you move on. Every relationship that every single person has is a series of trust exercises. It's game theory at the worst case scenario, and at the best case scenario, it is the assumption and hope that humans will treat humans like humans. Yeah. It truly could have been a misalignment of love languages. Also true. Also very true. Porter's POV is incredibly well written as someone who assumed but did not communicate. There's a lot of guess I wasn't, not David said. Yeah. And like this is the reason I think why I'm so angry about this, in part, is Isaac Porter pulling away and being like, guess I was testing him? Yes, that's a toxic trait. Yes, there are problems there. But also there's another thing beyond that, right? Which is when he says, guess I was testing him, there is another part of there that goes into the conversation of love languages, and it's that I wanted to feel validated. I wanted to feel secure. I wanted to feel as though I had meaning in his life and in his structure, and that because I wasn't comfortable talking to him about it, I decided to test it through action, and I interpreted his actions as saying that I didn't. But that level of validation and valuing that he's hoping for could be expressed from the different person in a myriad of different ways, right? That conversation about having space, that conversation about having a relationship that feels mature. If he conveyed that to David, David would interpret giving space as a sign of trust, potentially. I don't know what David actually did. But a possible takeaway is that space means trust. Space means love. Space means affection, right? Because the other person will come to you when they're ready. Potentially is David's perspective. So all of this is just, again, I would not be this level of passionate if the writing wasn't good. I'm just also angry at Isaac Porter. You get it. But I wasn't. So I ended it. Last night. I called him. Didn't expect he'd pick up. I had everything prepared to leave a message with an assistant or ad or whatever. But he answered. First ring. Without hesitation, shame, or awkwardness. Like, okay. Without hesitation, shame, or awkwardness. Have you never been on your phone when you got like a phone call and picked up right away? What does shame look like? How does shame manifest? Have you never, while ashamed, fronted that everything was normal because you were ashamed? I don't believe David Assure spent a single day of his life when he wasn't awkward. Like, this is the thing, is that we all construct the narrative that we need. And that's not a bad thing, right? Isaac Porter and David Assure could have not been a good fit for each other. This, like, nothing here is like, Isaac Porter, you're a bad person. David Assure was a bad person, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm not making that value statement. I'm just saying, in the nature of the relationship, it's more valuable to over-communicate, because that's how you get the information that you need. When people are like, oh, I don't know why this big hydration phase has happened with the Gen Xers. Why is everyone talking about hydration? It's because I would rather be overhydrated than underhydrated. It's because sometimes things are issues, and unless the issues are talked about and redressed, they will continue to be issues. Anyway. And that ticked me off. So I told him exactly how valued he had made me feel the past few months. I told him exactly how insignificant I felt as the boyfriend of the illustrious Dr. David Assure. And what did he say? He apologized. And then he asked me if that was all I called to tell him. David Assure sucks here. I'm not saying David Assure did well. But if I pick up the phone and my partner is like, "You're a piece of shit. I don't feel valued. You suck, and I hate your guts." And there was literally anything else going on in my life in that moment. Like, but what did you want, Isaac? What was the goal in that moment? Like, was it just to get him to yell? And then the fact that he didn't yell, like to indicate to you that you were valuable, you needed to see him yell? Like, what is the goal? What is the point? And sometimes it really doesn't feel like people know that going in. Woof. I hung up after that, spent the rest of the night wrapped in warm disdain for him and his coldness. He had made that easy for me. I went to sleep hurt but clean, ready for something new. And then this morning I wake up to see that my ex killed himself not 2 hours after he let me walk out of his life without so much as a don't. Wow, I really did not expect us to go down this particular rabbit hole. Um, People assume an outburst of emotion means they care, but some people just don't have outbursts like that. Yeah. Okay, wow. There's a lot to break down here. I did not expect. I was not, my loins were not girded for this, in part because Morgan is such a son of a bitch that I don't, I would just be like, Morgan deserves whatever bad shit goes her way and then move on. But okay, this is a lot. Obviously, suicide in general, right? Let's take the game narrative out of it for a second, because the game narrative is, did he or didn't he? That's the mystery, right? In part, as well as, what makes personhood, et cetera, et cetera. But we're going to be talking a lot about mental health. We're going to be talking a lot about suicide. I'm not going to say things like krill yourself or sweet and sour or whatever the fuck the TikTok censorship thing is. We're going to be talking about it full frontal. But if that is something that makes you uncomfortable, again, Of the Devil has never pulled its punches, and I am going to have to end here because we have been streaming for 3 hours, and I do still have the job for another week. So, but mental health is tough. And a part of the reason why the phrase neurodivergence emerged is because mental illness implies something that can be fixed. When you've got the flu, you are ill. And when you're healthy, you don't have the flu. So for a lot of people, that's chronic depression. That's bipolar. That's things that are documented, real cases that people don't want. A part of the difficulty around that, and with the human psyche as a whole, about the conversation about mental illness, is that there is an underlying assumption, which is that there is value in conformity. And that statement sucks on the punk level, on the oh, resist the man or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that people like it when other people think in a similar way to them. Just is what it is. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? That's another conversation. But when people have that neurodivergence, when people have mental illness, a big indicator of it is that those behavioral and thought patterns are different than their peers.
And so what you'll see a lot of the times with interviews of loved ones and families and friends of people who do commit suicide is they go, I never thought that would happen. I never expected that to happen. And that's a part of the point, right? That's a part of we talked during episode 0 about Psychopaths, which is another game that does a really great job, and anime that does a really great job of sort of touching on these topics. But obviously, and right, like there's another element here about survivor's guilt and things like that, and we're not like we're just gonna take that and put that to the side, because the main thing that I'm approaching here is twofold. Number one, it is not Isaac Porter's responsibility if he believes that his boyfriend committed suicide, his ex-boyfriend committed suicide. It is not Isaac Porter's responsibility to save his ex-boyfriend's life. And that is like a cold, harsh statement that will provide no one comfort. But the fact of the matter is that Isaac Porter had real, valid feelings that were not going to be resolved in any other meaningful way, and he needed to express them. Sure, was the timing unfortunate? Was it literally the opposite of serendipity? Yeah. But the very same factors that could potentially have led Dr. David Ashore to committing suicide, to taking his own life, could also be contributive factors to why the relationship wasn't going to work. Now, is that a statement that, well, Dr. David Ashore should have just committed suicide then? Foregone conclusion. No. But the point is that mental health and other issues in life don't fit together neatly. This whole thing about compartmentalization, this whole thing about work-life balance, all of that is described in part in conflict, right? The way that Helen Jung talks about it, in part is because it's true. It is in conflict. If you have a bad day, if someone cuts you off on the freeway, if someone gives you the wrong cup of coffee when you've ordered it, if you stub your toe walking up the stairs into work, all of those are contributive to a bad mental state for you in that moment, and it's possible for you to lash out. We are all constantly trying to do our best, but that's not a guarantee that it won't happen. The best that any of us can ever hope for, these characters in this game, you and me as real people, any of us can ever hope for, is that sometimes you afford somebody a little bit of grace at the right time. And obviously, unfortunately for Isaac Porter, he feels like he didn't. And there's going to be a lot of guilt, and there's going to be a lot of stuff carrying here. But for the exact same reason that Porter is distressed and uncomfortable, someone threatening to take their own lives if you break up with them is equally unacceptable, and more so, right? Like, this is a lot. And it's a really awkward place to end the stream, but I do gotta end the stream. But conflating your significance in someone's life with the difficulties and adversities that they're going to face is never a good idea. It's never a single number line where every good thing moves you to the right and every bad thing moves you to the left. It is, and always will be, just two separate piles, a pile of good things and a pile of bad things. And sometimes you get to contribute to the pile of good things. Sometimes you contribute to the pile of bad things. But at the end of the day, you can only control yourself. So, sweet boy Isaac Porter, we're going to come back next week, and I'm going to open up this screen, and I'm going to go, oh, this was a very bad time that past DeMaiste really hosed future DeMaiste. But I don't know. This is a lot, and I think it deserves space to breathe. So.
when Of the Devil's writing gets a little too real and it becomes a reflection of self and your social experiences. Good media reflects reality. It does. Yeah, thank you guys for being here and for hanging out. Hutchko, you logging into this. Sorry, bud. Here's the good news. Isaac Porter is hot. So do what you will with that. But yeah. All right, friends. I will catch you guys about, but Wirebone does bring up an excellent point, which is that we're going to try to raid into somebody else who's streaming Of the Devil. Be sweet, be kind. I don't know anything about this person other than they are currently streaming.
The woman looks at
you know, Of the Devil, and they are apparently streaming it with others. So be nice to them. I will catch you dweebs around. We need me more than once a week. So I'm gonna send the raid out. So good news, bad news on that one. Red Jacket. I might be streaming more. And that's gonna be because I am in a week from now when my company that I'm currently working for dissolves, I will intrinsically be laid off. So you might get to see more of me faster than you expected. But yeah. All right, I'll catch you dweebs. Be nice. And I'll see you. Bye.